Yo, what up, what up, what up? This is Wax coming to you with another episode of Wax's podcast. This is episode 145. Shout out to Justin K. Justin K was the person who made that rendition of the podcast jingle. Got a shitload of renditions of that now. I appreciate the love, y'all. I appreciate the creativity involved in doing what you guys do to bring that forward to the society as a whole. Sorry, I just got off the phone with my man Nick Shea. If you've been following the podcast, Nick is a 20-year-old man from Boston, Massachusetts, and he just embarked. Well, he just disembarked, I guess. Wait, disembarked? Embarked is when you leave. Disembarked is... I don't fucking know. He did a 3 weeks and 5 days. Basically 4 week. He did a 4-week bicycle trip from Boston, New York to Philly to Baltimore to all over like the Northeast as well as the Mid-Atlantic. And I just had a long conversation with this young man, and I got into some deep territory at the end. So I apologize for me using those types of vocabulary words, even though I can't pronounce the phrase vocabulary words. I would argue that vocabulary words is not even a phrase. It's just a plural noun with an adjective. Is that a phrase? If you said blueberries, it's pretty much the same thing as saying vocabulary words as far as what type of part of speech it is. If you said eating blueberries, is that a phrase? Because if you said I ate blueberries, that would be a sentence. I don't know. I haven't been in English class in a long time. Anyway, it's another Wednesday, another fucking Wednesday, and another I can't even fucking talk. Another Wednesday in this thing we call life. And what do I got going on? I appreciate the love, y'all. I did another Acoustic Monday video this past Monday. Go check that out at youtube.com/wax. a.k.a. youtube.com/wax and Herbal Tea. Shout out to my brother Herbal Tea. We are working on an EP right now with the producer Lack of Afro. I'm working on an album produced by my boy Davey Nathan. Putting out a video of myself playing an acoustic video on my YouTube and on my Facebook, facebook.com/wax.com every Monday. Acoustic Mondays this whole summer, June, July, and August. I think the best one yet is going to be out next week. It's a really good song. Some people have told me, and maybe they're correct about this, that I'm actually cheapening the music. You know, when you do an episode, this is episode 5 of Acoustic Mondays, when really it's like this is this song. You know, by calling it an episode of a series, it cheapens the quality of the actual song. And you know what? They might be true. But I'm not going to put out a shittier song just because. Although some people would argue that they're all shitty. I don't know. I think at this point, I don't give a fuck. You got to just put out what you think is good, you know? And when it comes to songs, I've just been doing it for so goddamn long that at this point, if I think it's good, it's probably at least okay. And if you think it sucks, that's because music is subjective and you have the right to your opinion. Yeah, so that's all the shit that I got going on. Besides that, not much to say. I got into this long conversation with Nick Shea, and it actually became a really interesting conversation, so I'm just going to drop that in right now. And when that ends, I'm going to do some questions and shout-outs. This might actually be a pretty long podcast, so strap on it. Strap in, partner. Saddle up, cowboy. Okay? This is Wax's podcast, episode 145, and if you've been listening, you know that there's been a documentation going on for the last 4 or 5, maybe even 6 episodes of Wax's podcast involving this young man. Everybody say what's up to Nick Shea. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, you recently did a trip. You did a GoFundMe, and you had a bicycle trip. You went all over the Northeast and even the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States on a bike. Why don't you give people like an overview of what this exactly was that you did?
well, with the GoFundMe, I raised about, someone actually from the podcast donated yesterday. So the podcast is helping, you know. John Wiggins, thank you, John Wiggins, if you're listening. But yeah, I raised about like $2,500 and just hopped on my bike and wanted to see the world. And my original plan was to go from Boston to New Orleans. I made it all the way to Alexandria, Virginia, and it was a lot. My bike was getting flats every 2 or 3 days, and the bike would come out of true. That's some bike term that I figured out.
It would do what? It would say that again?
It would come out of true.
Come out of true. Okay, so it kind of, that's like an alignment kind of thing, right?
Yeah. See, I had no idea. You know more than me about the bike. Like, I'm not a bike guy.
Hey, man, I've never heard that term in my life. I was just using context clues.
Yeah. Well, no, but people, when I would get to cities, they'd be like, oh, how's the gears on there? I'm like, I don't even use the gears. I'm just riding a bicycle. So I'm not a bike guy. I just really enjoy riding a bike, and you know, it's a way that I can go on my own. I don't have a license, and with the bike, it's really my power. You know, it's my willpower to keep going, and if I have to walk up a hill, I'm walking up a hill. That's why I wanted to do this on a bicycle.
So how did you find out which routes to take on a bike? And did you take is it mostly bike trails, or is it mostly just riding on the side of the road?
No, I used Google Maps, and Google Maps they put me on the sides of highways, and you could put the bike setting on Google Maps, but it was putting me in some really bad locations. I was going through like some really ghetto places and some really rough parts of town, and it got me there, but it was a lot of times not suitable for biking. But on the flip side, I think it's an amazing thing that you can put. And I use my phone, and this thing is in my pocket, and I could say, I want to get to Philly from Boston. How do I do it? And in like 10 seconds, it'll tell me exactly how to get there. I think it's an amazing thing that us humans take for granted.
Yeah, we do. And, you know, I'm old enough to remember the times, you know, I used to have a job as a courier many years ago before that shit, and like I just had to have a map in the car. I even like this is like in the middle of it when me and my brother did a tour in 2008. I think it was 2008. This was when MapQuest was big. So before the tour, we actually printed out like a huge stack of directions from city to city to city. So, but it was still like you had to have a paper stack of, you know what I mean? That was like the intermediate.
For the low budget mystery tour.
Low budget mystery tour, exactly. But you know,
you guys are on maps on that one.
We were on MapQuest, yeah, exactly. So before we even left, we had the whole trip printed out because we didn't know, you know, you don't know when you're going to be able to stop and you have to get a printer, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like common to just like, you know, like if you got directions from something, oh, just take a picture of it, you know what I mean? Everything is take a picture of it now. But that's cool. So why don't you tell us about a couple of the good and bad experiences on this trip?
All right. A lot of people have been asking me about like memorable things. One of the most memorable things I had was I went over this bridge. I was in Long Island, and it was getting late, and I wanted to camp for the night, and I was going to go to some beach that I knew was nearby, and the only way I could get there quickly was to go over this bridge that I wasn't supposed to. And I was
why weren't you supposed to?
It was like a thin bridge, and I don't know, it just said no bikes allowed.
Okay.
But I went over it anyway, and I got like halfway over the bridge, and then cops pulled up on the other side, and I was like, I know that they saw me. So they turned around, and I pulled over, and they were like, get to the end of the bridge, and then we'll talk to you. And I was like, it was just like a walk of shame to like see like what the hell's gonna happen. I thought I was gonna like, I don't know what they were gonna do, but I didn't have like I said, I didn't have an ID with me, so they were just giving me trouble about that. And they were talking about like, oh, you're not supposed to go over that bridge. I know you saw the signs. You're gonna get a summons. So I was just pissed, but I was like, all right, I got myself into this. But then a man pulls over and starts running towards us, and they were like, you know this man running? And I wanted to say like, yeah, it's my dad, but I didn't want to lie. And they were like, so I was like, no, I don't know him. And then he shows up and he's like, hey, I'll bring him to the nearest bike path. I know where the bike path is. He's all right. And they miraculously said, all right, you can go with him. I went with the dude and I'm talking to him. Yeah, and like they were going to give me a court summons in Long Island, and I had no desire of even being in Long Island anymore at this point. And God knows when the court summons would be. And that would just be bullshit. But getting this dude's car, he just started talking to him. He's a big fan of Neil Young, the Grateful Dead. We bonded over that a little bit, and he let me camp in his yard. So he was like a savior. And it made me realize that like you might like getting into some shit, like it's gotta work out.
You know what's interesting about that story is, you know, when you like if let's say that happened and it was a movie, like that guy that you called a savior would it of course be the guy who tried to fucking rape and kill you and shit like that. I think we often forget, and I think on trips like that you can learn, like, you know, obviously you got to be safe and watch your back and shit, but most people are generally good, you know. And this guy that got you out of trouble, and it was ballsy of you even to get in his car, but you know, sometimes people aren't the fucking crazy assholes that we make them out to be, you know.
I thought he was like, one, from talking to him, like just judging him like, oh, he seems like a good guy, but he also ran up to me while I was talking to two angry police officers. So if he was like going to do anything murderous to me, he wouldn't. I don't think he would try to stay away from the police, I think, unless he was a true psycho.
Right, because if you went up missing, they got his description, you know. Right. Now, why didn't you have an ID?
I just never got one.
So you're just going. Isn't that technically illegal to be just going around the country with no ID?
That over the age of 18, yeah, and I'm 20, so.
Jesus.
I didn't get really in any trouble for that, and but I went to the RMV before I left, and the RMV is the worst place I've ever experienced. And I was in there for 5 minutes. They told me it was a 3-hour wait, and I was like, I don't need an ID. I don't care.
What's RMV stand for? Every state has like a different initial for that.
Registry of Motor Vehicles.
Okay. In California, it's the DMV, and then in Maryland, it's the MVA, the Maryland Vehicle Administration or whatever.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yep. It's the government association or whatever the fuck where you get your driver. But you've never had a driver's license.
No, I live in the city. I grew up in Boston's a city. It's like built around train tracks. Like you take the train wherever the hell you need to go.
Right. I understand. Yeah, I definitely have met people in that you know, in that way. Like where I'm from is there's no public transportation, so everybody would want to get their driver's license. But
yeah, well, I mean, like people, like if you're from New York, like your life is going to be hell if you're driving. Like you don't want to drive. Right.
There's people that are 70 years old that live in New York City that have never driven in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fucking interesting. So you went and why don't you tell, how long were you gone for total?
3 weeks and 5 days.
And what made you? I guess this is kind of but why don't we do it Quentin Tarantino style and start at the end? What made you stop when you were in Alexandria, Virginia?
Well, with a lot of the updates I was sending you, like, I use the updates as like a good reflection time. So it was actually really, really helpful to just send updates to the podcast. But I was just. A lot of times I was like, I don't know if I should keep going. I'm not sure what I'm doing out here. And it was a lot of pushing through that. And it got to a point where, like, a lot of times I'd be like, maybe I should stop going. But part of me was like, nah, man, keep going. But it got to this point in Virginia when I literally had no more money. And my bike was getting all messed up. And it was going to be really unsafe for me to go through the Appalachian Mountains because my bike is just not able to ride for more than 2 days. And if I'm stuck on top of a mountain, then I'm without food, then that's gonna be terrible. I might not see another person for like 4 hours.
Yeah, and I think if you're stuck in the Appalachian Mountains, I think you got to kind of go with the opposite of what I was saying earlier and not trust a fucking soul up there, because they're actually the kind of people that might not saying they're the kind of people, but there are some people up there that you don't want to necessarily get in their car. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not like I can yell or like a police officers patrol the area, you know.
Right.
Um,
Maybe there was some divine intervention there. You know, maybe if you would have kept, maybe some whatever sense of intuition told you to stop going. Maybe that was a wise one. You know.
yeah, well, I saw my bike continuously break, like when I got to Virginia, it was to a point where like I can't like fixing this is stupid at this point. I saw it as a sign where the bike was telling me like, hey man, let's quit while we're ahead. We've done some amazing things, you know.
So
I
what?
leave my bike in Virginia. I cried like a little baby, man.
Damn.
It's
Like you left it where? Just like kind of on the side of by the dumpster or something?
I paid for an Amtrak train, and so I left it at the Amtrak station. And
Oh, okay.
that was weird. Like I didn't like because it's just a bike, you know. But I don't know. I was looking at my phone. I rode that bike all this way. I'm gonna miss that bike. And then yeah, 2 flat tires. I'm not really gonna miss it. That thing was a piece of
Nah,
shit.
I mean, I get that. I mean, when you're on a trip, on any tour I've been in, you kind of whatever vehicle you're in, you develop a relationship with the vehicle. Whether it's like 10 people on a bus, you always end up naming the bus, you know, or it's just you and your
Yep.
car. Like you kind of develop like a relationship with your vehicle, you know. And I imagine with a bike, it's even more personal, you know.
Well, that was like it was like my closet, or like sort of like my house. Cause like, where's my clothes? It's in there. Where's my food? It's on the bike. Where's my phone? No, my phone was always in my bag, but you know what I mean.
So how much shit were you carrying, and how were you carrying it on the bike?
So I initially left with, I had two saddlebag panniers or whatever on the front, and two on the back, and a milk crate full of stuff in the front and a milk crate full of stuff on the back, which was just way too much shit.
Right.
And so as I went like third day, ditched the front milk crate, and some of the stuff. And then once I got to New York, I ditched the back milk crate entirely. It was still like, there's some tools. There was like toiletries. I brought way too much stuff that I needed. And I think for any trip, bring less than you need. Well, like just bring the bare necessities. Like I don't need to be carrying 3 pairs of shoes, which I did. I left 2 pairs of shoes in New York at a friend's house.
Right.
I didn't, you know, there's just a lot of stuff I didn't need. I didn't need, it sounds gross, but I didn't need all the underwear that I had, because just the way I was living, was just really dirty. And like, I'm not showering for 3 days. So why am I carrying all this underwear? Just wear the same shit, or, you know?
Right. The fact is that we kind of, in our day-to-day lives in the first world, we kind of have more shit than we really need. I was a lot of times on trips, like, you know, I'm not usually on a bike where it's actually fucking difficult to carry all this extra shit, but I almost always take a little bit much more shit than I need. But like, you know, if I was in a situation like that, I think maybe I wouldn't. But damn, man, I forgot what the fuck else I was
like you have you got I know, like I've seen pictures and stuff. You got a home studio with like just a ton of shit in there, but that's you use that stuff to make like regularly to like make art. Like I have like a bunch of just books and like records at my house that maybe I sampled some stuff once, but now they're just sitting there. Like I don't need this. Just
right.
I really just coming back from the trip, I was like, I want to live with no excess and just what I need. If I only have 4 shirts, I'll wash them every now and then. You actually don't even need to wash your shirts as much as you think. If you wear a shirt for a day, you don't need to throw it in the hamper. If you like worked out or something like that, if you just wore it to hang out at your friend's house, it's clean.
Right. So that's one of the things you took away from the trip then, huh? Kind of like living a little bit more simpler.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said that New York was your favorite part of the trip?
Yeah, New York is I'm really into just like constant like life happening and just meeting all different kinds of people. And New York is just like that, because I met people from like Saudi Arabia, Germany, just different parts of America, and these people are having like disco parties at like 3 a.m. and just having the time of their lives. And I just think that it's such an amazing thing. It's like a hub of just, we want to have a good time and experience the people of the world.
Right.
That's what I felt from it.
So where were you staying? Like, what are some of the stuff you did besides the disco party? What are some of the things you did, and how did you live there? Like, where did you stay at and shit like that?
I spent 1 night or 2 nights with a friend in Brooklyn, and then the rest. Then I spent a week there, and then 5 more nights with a friend in Lower East Side. And he's from Italy, and he's been here for a long time, but he's like still on those Italian customs. He was pretty much naked in a tight spandex underwear the entire time.
Really?
So that was interesting, but that didn't really have anything to do with the trip. I just thought that was funny.
Right.
To just go home to that every day. But he gave me a key. I was just in and out. That was really nice. And I was just out the whole day. I'd wake up at I was eager, waking up at 7 or 9 o'clock in that area, and then just go out. And I rode my bike around. I took all my bags off and would just ride around the city and try to get into some shit.
So say for example, the thing you said where people were doing these late night disco parties, just for almost as an advice column for anybody else that might want to take a similar trip, how would you find these people? What kind of avenues would you take to meet up with these different people that you met?
Well, in New York specifically, like there's a place New York specifically, Washington Square Park, Union Square Park. There's always stuff happening in those 2 places. And I would say I was going into just Baltimore. I went to the whatever along the waterfront. I don't know what it's called, but just wherever there's just
No, I think it's just called the waterfront.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
By
the fucking aquarium and shit like that.
Yeah, I was right there.
Yeah, I think that's just called the waterfront. So you actually said it perfectly.
It was cool stuff there. I don't know, just wherever there's the main area, something's gonna happen. Like Union Square Park in New York, every Friday they do I'm not gonna say their name because I really don't like these people, but they do a hip hop cipher, and they just don't know how to have a cipher. They're just it's not about rapping together. It's about yeah, y'all suck, and I'm here to let y'all know. Oh, you're from Boston? I don't give a shit. This is my turf. And it was what I know a cipher is a communal thing. And it's yo, we're all here rapping, going 4 bars each. This is just it was just bullshit. But that's something that happens. It's something you can see. You never know what's gonna happen in
yeah, well, I mean, that might be a
public places.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because it might be. I mean, especially considering that New York is the birthplace of said ciphers, and they might view an outsider, and that might be a different cultural way of looking at a cipher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you find out different things, but based on where you go. You know what I mean? I remember when I took a similar trip to you. I remember I kind of had whatever the experience you had in New York, I kind of had in San Francisco. And I stayed at a hostel, and I met all these people there, and everybody was partying. And I went to met all these fucking weird people, but yeah, I think it's on a trip like that. Like if you're staying in the city for a while, it's definitely key to meet some people and just do some weird shit and see what people get into. I was telling you on one of the podcasts, I actually this might stem from the fact that you're actually from the city, whereas I'm from more of a rural area. I actually I like the nature aspects of a long trip like that more than the urban aspects. Maybe I'm just a fucking loner. I don't really necessarily want to talk to people. I'd just rather sit on a cliff. But did you experience any cool shit as far as non-city adventures? Maybe you saw some interesting things in nature.
No, not really. Which is why I was a little bummed. My whole thing with wanting to go to the mountains was it's going to be so different than what I'm used to, because being in a city and going to cities, I more or less know what to expect.
Yeah, they start to look
But
the
it's so
same. They start to look the same, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely. And then I'm back in Boston now, and like this, it looks like everywhere I've been. But no, yeah, I didn't really experience too much nature stuff. I tried to go in a river one day, and I got like poison ivy or something on my leg. I got this big rash on my leg, so I'm like, nature doesn't want me to be a part of it.
Damn, that's funny. You know, it's funny, man. Is I mean, I don't know. You know, people that are from the city kind of have like a fear is a strong word, but have a fear of like, you know, something like a summer camp or going into the mountains, whereas people from like people from the mountains would be fucking terrified probably of wherever you live in Boston. You know what I mean? Like they have no either way. It's like, I don't know what's behind that tree. I don't know what's in that alley. What the fuck is this poison ivy? What the fuck is this urine smell? You know what I mean? Like fuck it. It's just like we're kind of scared of what we're not used to. You know.
I'm not comfortable unless like I hear police sirens going by and like I feel like my bike could get stolen or someone could steal my wallet at any given time.
Right, but poison ivy, you're like, what is this?
Yeah, like that's a murderer to me. And in the city, I'm like, oh yeah, that dude just shot someone. That's my man, though.
Right. That's interesting. So why don't we kind of start wrapping this up? Why don't you give, like, what besides the thing you said earlier about trying to live with simpler means, what's something that you really took away from this trip as far as you know, you're 20, you're kind of this is kind of these kind of trips that people take are kind of remind me of like those experiences that like 13 and 14-year-olds have with a shaman in a tribe where they take some peyote and go into the woods and they come out a man. You know what I mean? Do you feel like what else do you think you learned about yourself, and is that even accurate at all as far as this trip?
I mean, I don't think I definitely a few things that I learned about myself. And I've usually always felt like this, but I really felt like it does not matter what like people like you don't expect of you. Like if you and like I usually relate stuff to music, but like if you make rap music and you want to make a disco song, but you feel like you can't make a disco song or a country song because that's not rap, like you're holding yourself back. So that was something like my mom was telling me like, no, don't take this trip. And, I was like, well, if I'm going to listen to you, like I don't know. I can't do that. Like, I'm not fully allowing myself I'm not trusting myself if I'm basing everything I do off you. That was something big, and just really trusting myself and saying like, no, I believe in what I'm doing, and, I'm going to follow what I'm doing, and, it's all going to be okay. Another thing was, there's a lot of, everywhere we are is a temporary space. Cause like, I felt like I was at home in New York after a little bit, and I was like, no, but I'm not home, but I am. Like, this is a temporary place that is my home, but tomorrow, if I'm in another city, that's my home. Right. If I come back, everything's temporary. Even the house you lived in for 40 years, like it's still it's a temporary place just in life, which I thought was really.
No, that's true. Really, I definitely think that's true, and I know. I mean, literally and physically, like I've lived in a lot of different places, so I can relate to that. But I think that also even pertains to like relationships. You know what I mean? Or like you said, or like the relationship you might have with your mom, where she has this. I mean, because you know the reason she doesn't want you to take the trip is because she's worried about you. She doesn't want you to die or get hurt. You know what I mean? And that's like that's the way life used to be. Like you kind of had to go with whatever she said. That's the way life used to be in Boston. That's the way life. I mean, for you too. I know that you said you had a girlfriend. Like that was temporary. All these things are temporary. I remember Kanye West had a line that I think was like kind of like a standard line people say in life, but like people in your life are seasons, you know. And I think that's pretty accurate. It's good to it's good to
I've
look
heard
look
that,
at
but I
things
didn't hear
like
that from Kanye.
Yeah, well, he said it, but it's kind of like you know, it was on that song Heard Him Say. People in your life for seasons, and Graham keep praying and keep believing in Jesus, and one day that you see him till he with his footsteps and try to be him. But it's definitely one of those things where it's like you know, he probably heard it from his grandma or something like that. But
right.
But yeah, so it's all temporary. I like that. That's
absolutely.
I think that lesson alone is worth the fucking $2,500 on GoFundMe. What was like speaking of GoFundMe, what was some shit you bought? What was some good food you ate?
I told you I ate a burrito that was dipped in chili. I don't think it was chili. I'm not really good. I'm not a foodie, but
they told you it was
like
chili though. It was sold to you as chili though, right?
No, I made it up as chili. I don't know what it was.
Oh.
I just ordered the number 6, whatever it was. But it was like a burrito that was dipped in. I think it was a bunch of salsa. That was amazing. That was in DC.
Was it called? Did they sell it as a sunken burrito?
No, it was like a burrito mojito or something like that. Matt, it was really spicy.
Mojito, tomato. Who knows? It's a fucking chili burrito.
Is it? Yeah, exactly. New York pizza, way too much of it, but never enough.
Now, as a person who grew up in Boston, where there's probably a lot of places that sell like New York style pizza, did you feel like being in New York, you experienced better pizza?
Oh yeah, like I thought I had really good pizza here, but pizza over there. I don't know why. I just really enjoy. It's like not good pizza. It's not gourmet pizza. They sell it for $1,
right?
But something about like just that filthy, greasy pizza.
Oh, it's so good, man. So good.
They put the right amount of stank on it.
Right. Now you said you went to Philly, right? Did you have the fucking the amazing creation, which is the cheesesteak of Philadelphia?
Well, I didn't, and for 2 reasons. I heard that they actually really suck there. If anyone's from Philly listening, I heard they suck. So
you probably listen to. You probably listen. You probably just listen. You must be listening to my podcast because I've definitely hated on the Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah, no, but I met the other reason I didn't eat them is I went when I was in Connecticut. I saw some cows and I saw this thing that they like music, and I was singing like I saw a video of a dude playing a trumpet and a bunch of cows like flocked to him. And so I was like, I want to sing something. I was singing like Stevie Wonder or just whatever song I was thinking of. And a bunch of cows just came up to me like on the other side of the fence. And it was like a good 20 cows just listening. I'm like, damn, these are nice, kind animals. I don't want to eat these guys anymore. So I decided I don't want to eat meat anymore. And I was reading a bunch of stuff about like how it's healthy. I'm not trying to convert anybody, but like it's not as it's healthier to not eat meat.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I've been on it so that's why I didn't eat a steak and cheese or cheesesteak, whatever the hell it's called.
When was it's a Philly cheesesteak is what it's called, but
yeah.
because I don't know why, because there's as everybody knows, you can only get fucking cheese whiz and beef in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But
yeah.
what? So when was the last time you ate meat?
It's been about like maybe 3 weeks.
What was do you remember the last what the last meat meal was?
Yeah, it was the last bite I took was it was like a spicy chicken nugget appetizer, and I took one bite and I was like, nah, I don't want this. It's
funny that you say that. It's like I just like maybe 3 or 4 days ago watched yet another documentary on Netflix that's trying to convince you to be a vegan, and this one was actually really effective. It was much more focused on the health of a human rather than how fucked up the food industry is, both of which are good reasons not to eat meat. But this one was like, damn, like, I don't know. It just makes you question all the information that you ever have been told, because even the American Cancer Society and the American Diabetes Foundation are all sponsored by like Nabisco and Kraft, so they tell you to eat all this shit. And the dairy, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of the stuff that people tell you to eat, like when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, there'd be commercials on television telling you to eat cheese because you needed this calcium, and like it turns out you don't need any of that shit, and cheese is horrible for you, But
I haven't stopped eating cheese though, because cheese is pretty. Cheese, it just tastes good, but it not. Yeah, I feel you. It's.
I mean, I definitely can understand. I definitely can understand that. In the case of cheese, the reason that they were selling cheese in the 80s and 90s is because so many people drink milk, and in order to make milk, a byproduct of that is cheese. So all these dairy farmers would have just fucking warehouses basically full of cheese, and they're like, how are we going to get rid of all this cheese? Let's pay for some advertising, make people think that cheese is healthy. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what happened in the 80s. But I can't remember what my initial point of going into that was. But that's cool. That's yet another thing that you learned on your trip. You stopped eating meat. You let's count. Let's so far it's no meat, simpler life, and what was the other thing that you were fucking saying? And things are temporary.
Yeah. Everything is temporary. My best friend is temporary right now, and that's. I met this guy in New York. These people in New York, and we played music in Washington Square Park for like 2 hours, and it was amazing. And I was saying to myself, man, I really want to go back and play again with them. And if I don't, and it'd be great if I did, but if I don't, I still have that amazing moment with them, and you can't take that away just because I don't see them again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I will always have the time I spent with them, which is amazing.
That was very deep. That's very true, though. It was. I mean, some people, you always have these times. It's kind of like you can always look back into this memory. And some people, I've heard people say that's relative to just an entire human life as well. It's just really like a temporary existence, like a dream, and it's kind of relative to just one small experience as your entire life, and then that small experience is the life of humankind, for example. Whether that's
Wait, can I ask you a question about your trip?
Yeah.
You said you met some weird people. Who is like a standout weird person that you met on your trip that you remember?
A standout. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say this dude was weird, but when I was staying, this was many years ago. I was 20. I actually stayed in San Diego. My friend was in the Navy at the time, and I kind of illegally stayed in the Navy barracks. And one of his homies that was in the Navy with him, we went down to it was in San Diego, like I said. And at that time, on a Friday and Saturday night, it was very common for people that were under 21 in San Diego to drive down to Tijuana in Mexico because the drinking age is smaller. It was 18 to drink there, and back then it wasn't quite as dangerous. Right. But this dude, I can't even remember his fucking name. I wish my boy would remember his name, but he was kind of like a redneck dude. And God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. But I just remember I was checking my engine, and I just remember and I have dumb memories about words, but I just remember that instead of quart of oil, he would always say quart. Look like you need a quart. I just remember that. That's I don't know why I even brought that up. That's what stuck out when you asked me about weird people. I can't remember. I definitely made some mistakes on my trip. I remember one time I got really drunk and I just kind of like woke up in the morning on some random street corner. I was like, oh, that could have been fucking worse than it was.
You slept outside of a street corner?
Well, I mean, I slept I did sleep, but it was an accident, And
like you passed out.
Yeah, and it was in San Francisco. And my mom listened to this podcast. She wouldn't be happy to know that, but I didn't fucking die. But like you said when you told your mom to no, I got this. Like that morning, I was like, I shouldn't have told anybody I got this because I'm clearly not. I'm arguably still not responsible enough to take a trip like that. But it's better when
I felt like that a lot.
But it's better when you're on tour. It's better when you're on tour with other people because at least people can. If you make mistakes, other people got your back. But when you're alone, it's just you. You learn a lot more, and it's good that I personally believe that it's good to practice solitude a lot because I think it's good. Your brain shouldn't have to need other methods of you got to be able to entertain yourself. It's weird. Right. Like it's. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say something that I realized was. A lot of times when if I hang out with a group of people for like 5 days in a row, it's like, all right, I need time alone. On this one, I'd spend 5 days alone, and I was like, I really want to hang out with my friends. So I got the opposite feeling of like not wanting solitude anymore. Like I had enough solitude.
Right. Well, the worst. I always think about this and talk about this. If you go to the worst fucking prison in America where people are getting stabbed and raped and there's gang fights on the yard, the worst thing that they can tell you is you have to go to solitary confinement. And in my mind, I'm like, if I was in San Quentin where people could fucking stab me and rape me, I'd want to be in solitary confinement the whole time. You know what I mean? That's always my thought about it. But obviously, it's human beings, because that's just like proof that we crave interaction with other people, you know? Because even in the worst, even with the worst and most dangerous kind of people, we'd still rather be around them than all by ourselves, you know? But I think it's important to feel that discomfort, you know? And you know,
absolutely.
All the old like Buddhist monks and shit, they would just, you know, be meditating for 2 months and shit like that. So I think it's a valuable skill.
Luckily, like with the power of technology, I was able to, like, if I really wanted to call someone, I could call someone and just have a conversation for a little bit, you know?
Right.
But still, like, it was, I challenged myself. Don't fucking look at your phone. But
right.
You're not on this trip to look at a phone. You're on this trip to look at the world. So.
Yeah, man. That's a
portion of the world I saw.
Right. And do you think you succeeded in that, or do you still think you looked at your phone too much?
I mean, I was looking at it, like to find a restaurant, or like I'd look up like restaurants in Philly just to see what's around.
Right. I feel like that's a little different. That's like, in that case, that's like if it was back in the day and you had a compass and a map. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's okay. But I think GPS is okay.
It would turn into me like, oh, well, I'm looking on the phone. Here's Instagram. And I would look at Instagram for a second and be like, what am I doing?
Dude, I was just telling some, like, this, you know, sometimes I'll be like getting like work tasks done, right? And I'll be like, oh, I got to return that email. So I'll like open up an internet browser. And then like an hour later, I'm like, I kind of like wake up from a dream and I'm on Facebook and Twitter or whatever. And I didn't even do the thing I initially opened the internet for. You know what I mean?
Every time.
It fucking, traps you, dude. It's, I don't know.
And the dream thing too, and I don't remember most of 99% of the time. I don't remember what I was aimlessly looking at.
Right. Exactly. It's completely
like
useless.
Reading an article. I'm looking at just pictures of the dude. I don't even know what I'm looking at.
I saw an episode of 60 Minutes recently where they were talking about there's a I can't remember what the name of the company was, but there was like it looked like a good company, like one of those companies where they got ping pong tables and shit at the office and everybody looks all happy. But the point of the company was they make apps as addictive as possible. They do the science, you know what I mean? Like like every time you get a notification, it gives you like a little bit of dopamine, just like you were doing a drug, you know, and you go and check and you see when people like or when people comment or you get a new thing, it actually releases something in your brain that like, there's a chemical reaction that makes you just like the same way, the same way if you were talking to somebody or if you smoked a cigarette or whatever, like there's studies that make you be on your phone and on these apps more. It's kind of fucking sad because it definitely works on all of us.
Those people in those offices playing ping pong, I think they're as evil as those people those murderers in San Quentin that you were talking about.
Wow, Nick Shea going hard. Nick Shea going hard.
Devious level.
Right. Do you think that they're
manipulate you?
Yeah, I think that that's interesting, man. Because you know, well, say for example, take this for example, right? My dad worked for the Navy, but does that mean he's as evil as the government? You know what I mean? He's just doing his job. You know what I mean? But then on the flip side, of that, you could make the same argument for the fucking soldiers of the Nazis. They were just doing what they were told, right? I don't know.
That's unfair to talk about.
It's unfair. I mean, it made me feel bad. It made me feel bad for my dad. Yeah, but my point is, I know my dad. My dad's like one of the most peaceful and loving people you ever meet. He happened to work for the Navy in a field where a lot of people get killed and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? My point is that even though that company is devious, who is the person to blame the evil on? The person who created the whole concept? Is that who we blame the evil on?
I think so, because like they're gonna hire like a graphic designer who's straight out of college or something like that, who's like, yeah, man, I get a job in my major. Like,
right, he just wanted the benefits. He's like, they have great health insurance. Yeah, he wasn't thinking like
he's trying to do his job.
He wasn't trying to fuck over society. He's not like the goal of my graphic design has always been to make people addicted to apps and not experience life.
It might be. I mean, there's billions of people in the world. Maybe
That's
one
true.
guy's like that, but I think for the most part, like your dad, he didn't cause the war. He's just doing his job.
Maybe that's what my dad wants you to think, you know? Maybe he told his family a bunch of lies, you know? And every day he came home and he had actually started the war all day. Huh? Nah, but yeah.
Yo, I started that war all day, son.
All day, starting wars. I just sent emails to various different countries today saying "fuck you." But okay, cool. We actually probably should conclude. I think this is pretty much going to be the podcast today. This and some shout outs and questions, because this is actually turning into a really great conversation, Nick. I really appreciate you being a part of the podcast, man.
Word, man. Like I said a million times, I'm so happy to be a part of it, man. I'm wearing a wax shirt right now.
That's what's up.
Got it on the Cookout Chronicles tour shirt. I'm always been a big fan, and it's just been an amazing thing to be able to communicate with you how I have.
Well, that's awesome, man. Is there any closing remarks you'd like to give to anybody listening, whether that just be fucking listen to my mixtape or whether that be like, if you're going to take a trip, here's my advice?
Definitely take a trip. You don't have to do it on a bike if you don't want to. Next time I do one, I'm definitely doing one in a car with some other people, just so it's a little different. But definitely anyone out there, take a trip, even if it's a day trip. Just do something where you're uncomfortable. You can follow me on Instagram, Nick Shea. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Don't follow me. I don't care what you do. Have a good day. That's what you should do. Have a good day.
That's what's up. You heard it here first from Nick Shea. I guess fuck it, man. I guess I'm gonna go into some questions and shout outs here. All right, hey Nick, you still there?
Yeah, man.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm gonna stop the recording there, but thanks for doing this. I appreciate your time, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you too. You have a good one, man.
All right, bro.
All right, peace.
Yep. That was our conversation. Give it up, y'all. I can hear the applause from here. It's so fucking loud. And somehow, not only is it loud, but it also went back in time to where I'm currently at. All of your applause somehow entered a weird time machine at the same time and came right back to here. And also a place machine. The place went from where you're at right to my room. I just heard a thunderous applause for that interview with Nick Shea. Let's get to some shout outs and questions. First of all, shout out to my man Chris M. and shout out to TsunamiVapor.com. Tsunami, T-S-U-N. Tsunami, N-A-M-I, Vapor.com. If you go there, you can use WAX as the coupon code, and you will get yourself a 10% discount on any of those products. Vaporizers, bongs, etc. I think they call it glass water pipes. Maybe I wasn't allowed to say bongs. I don't know. I don't think the feds are listening. I do not. But then again, they probably somehow scour the internet for words such as feds are listening. Phrases, rather, such as feds are listening. So what the fuck do I know? TsunamiVapor.com, a proud sponsor of the podcast. Also, another proud sponsor of the podcast. The Texas Road Stand. The Texas Road Stand down there in Cedar Creek, Texas. Shout out to Marion, a.k.a. Ghost in the Pines. Says that people are loving the Wax's Podcast Burger. People get the Wax's Podcast Burger, apparently, and they don't even know what the fuck Wax's Podcast is. So we have a great relationship here. They're getting a great burger, and they're being like, oh, what is this podcast? Probably not the great relationship, because as soon as they get to my podcast, they're like, who is this guy talking to this kid about biking, and why is he cussing all the time and talking about horrible English teachings? This guy doesn't even know what a phrase is. Okay. Shout-outs. We got Shoebox Dave, formerly Mr. C. In case you were wondering, in case you were wondering, who the hell is Shoebox Dave? I have no idea who that is. I've never even heard of Shoebox Dave before. Well, it's formerly he was Mr. C. Duh. Oh, a lot of you guys are like, oh, him? All right, we got Daniel from Toronto. We got Jack L. the American. We got Matthew from Corby, England. Jose C. Mike T, the multi-currency man / former security guard. The Thrill as himself. Marion, a.k.a. Ghost in the Pines, a.k.a. the owner of the Texas Road Stand. One day I'm going to go to that fucking place. I might even take a flight out there, eat a burger, and fly right back. I wish that planes worked in smaller, like, I don't know. I wish they were faster. I wish they could land on a much smaller. I wish planes could land in the way that helicopters could land. And I could land right next to there, just eat a burger and come back. But alas, science hasn't developed that far to the future yet. Dumpster Dude 123. We got Rick from Wichita. Clones 3K. We got Raul Justice, who says the podcast volume has been low. I didn't realize that. He says the volume of the podcast overall has been low. I apologize for that. I'm going to crank this one up a little bit. Of course, this one, it might be, I don't want to crank it too loud because I don't want Nick Shea's voice, since he's on the phone and it's a little bit high pitched. I don't want it to be piercing. But I imagine that I'm hoping that, like, maybe the volume wasn't as loud as it should be on the last few. I apologize for that because I kind of have a template set up. So if the last one was soft, the last fucking 5 probably were. And I apologize for that. I'll try to crank it. We got Chris M, Travis S, and of course we got Jordan H, who says, if you could shout out JD and my best friends, my brother Drewby, like Drew mixed with Doobie, and his dad, Andrew. That would be dope as hell. We'll shout out to Andrew, Drewby, JD, and Jordan H's best friends. We also got Jackie Sweetleaf. Happy early birthday, Jackie. And we got the one and only St. James. Right, let's get into some emails this week, shall we? All right, this first one's from ADEF. ADEF is actually a person I know, a personal friend of mine. Hey, Wax. I haven't listened to your podcast for a while, but I recently got back into it and proceeded to laugh my ass off in the first 5 minutes. Thanks for that. Listening to your newest podcast, I'm stoked for you. It seems like more and more people are appreciating what you do, and you have a super gnar, that was all caps, fan base, and says, please read that aloud in your bro voice. Also, if you have time, can you shout out my 2 nephews, Paul and Kaelon? Kaelon. Kaelon, I believe is how you would pronounce that. You met Paul a long time ago when you did a show in San Clemente. He's killing it with his website work, and you didn't meet Kaelon, but he's making music and super talented. Well, shout out to both of you guys. God damn, that was a long time, that show in San Clemente that you're referring to, which I believe was at Coconuts. I believe that was in Dana Point. I believe it's that show. I think that's the only show I played in San Clemente down there. If not, God, I've known you for a long time, A-Def. If not, no worries. Just wanted to show some Wax appreciation. Miss you, dude. Oh, and I totally support your decision to get into yoga. Although I'm happy your new journey isn't into Namaste, hasn't lightened your ability to rant about pushy websites and surveys, your uncooked chicken, and your stomach's strength or lack thereof. A-Def. Well, you know what? A-Def is referring to last week when I was ranting about how I had some raw chicken. I didn't cook my chicken enough. And instead of throwing it back on the grill or into the oven or microwave or stove, just fucking muscled through, almost as an experiment. And you know what, A-Def? I like to think that the various core exercises that are inherent in yoga have strengthened the resolve of not only my stomach muscles, but my actual stomach itself, the actual organ that is my stomach. And there's nothing that my body can't digest. I could fucking eat a Matchbox car. What are those things called? Hot Wheels. They still call them Matchbox. Maybe those are competing brands. I could eat a fucking my nephew's Hot Wheels cars and the tracks that go along with them. And my fucking yoga stomach would use its now even stronger and more spiritual, what do they call, acids, to break down the particles and shit them out, just like it would just look like regular shit. It wouldn't even look like plastic tracks. I really wanted to read this because you said something about super gnar and reading it in my bro voice. A-Def is from San Clemente, which is California, which is really like the heart of that Orange County accent. that like, yeah, my mom. That's how A-Def talks. Instead of saying mom and dad, she would say mom, dad. And you have to say it like a question. Everybody from Orange County says every statement as if if it's a question. Yeah? Yeah, like tell it, so rad. Is my mom and my dad? I don't know. Every time I do the Orange County impression, I always use the words mom and dad. I don't know why. My mom, my dad. Yeah, it was so rad. So rad. My mom, my dad. Anyway, I miss you too, A-Def. Thank you for the what's it called? Fucking email. This next one is from T-Lag. A lot of letter than three letter thing. A-Def, T-Lag. All right, we got. Anyways, my question is: Do you remember the lyrics of your songs, no matter how old they are? Sometimes I wonder if artists just straight out forget about songs while I'm jamming out to the oldies. So to test your remembrance of your own songs, I wrote out some lyrics and wonder if you had the ability to finish the line. Don't forget the lyrics style. The answers will come after all the songs are stated. Only looking for the end of the bar, by the way. I suppose this is something the listeners could play along to as well if you were decided to say this on your podcast. I've already seen this email, but I actually did know the answer to this. This song 1. Call the cab if you want to stay alive, because Roberto passed out. And he says that it's okay to drive. It's from my song with my band, Drinker's Anthem. But it was not Roberto. It was Umberto. Umberto. Number 2 is I only sip scotch. No other types of booze. Only flip-flops. And that is no other types of shoes. And I don't even know what that's from. That says, I can read it here. It's from Eviction Notice, 16 bars a day. He has a, you know how like when you have like a question and answer, like trivia thing in like if you had like an old magazine and at the bottom they'd put the answers but upside down and backwards or whatever. He did that in an email. I don't know what kind of fucking code you need to do that. What kind of I don't know how you do it, but he did it. All right, song 3. I took a shit where the Grammy red carpet starts. Now all the celebrities left our skid. Now all the celebrities left. What is it? Something our skid marks. Yeah, left. Because it was where the carpet starts. I will say, T-Lag, if anybody can't remember the lyrics, it's you. Because number 1 and 3, you said I took a shit where the Grammy red carpet starts. It's actually we took a shit. First one's not Roberto, it's Umberto. But that said, that has nothing to do with why I wanted to answer this question. It actually is a really interesting question. I just wanted to say the following: as far as artists remembering their own lyrics, I remember doing a show with Dumb, and I think I can't remember where it was, but I had Dumb come out and do one of his songs, and right before he came out, he was on rapgenius.com because he was looking up his own lyrics. And I've done that before too. And my point is this: if a song is old, just because it's your own song and your own voice doesn't make it any easier to memorize than if it was somebody else's song. Like I might be just as likely to know a Jay-Z song from 2010 than a Wax song from 2010. It doesn't make it like, it's not like just because it's yours, which is a fallacy that a lot of people think that for some reason, if it's your own song, you just know it all the time. I've heard people be like, he didn't even know his own lyrics. It's like, yeah, well, he's fucking written a lot of them. He's written a lot of lyrics. I heard somebody say, Questlove says that Black Thought says that the average rapper can hold 30 songs at a time in their head. He says 30. I feel like that's a pretty. I mean, depends how long the fucking songs are, I guess. But I feel like that's a pretty small number. Actually, I feel like he was being modest when he says that. I bet you that Black Thought has a lot more in his head than that he could rattle off. But then again, he's a particular example of somebody who has a lot of bars per song, So no, I don't remember the lyrics to my own songs. Like even like song 2, the one with the flip flops. I wouldn't remember what song that's from. You know. All right, this next one is from Earlobe Meat. Earlobe Meat, and I said it with a pause as if he wrote a space, but he did not. It's one fucking. There's no spaces. It's all lowercase. Earlobe Meat. Earlo B Meat. Earlo Bem Eat. Earlo Beamia T. All one word. Medium to biggish wax. Quick question that I've had brewing around the past few days. Have you heard of this Wheeler Walker Jr. guy? I have. If not, he's a character created by a comedian named Ben Hoffman. He does country music songs that are extremely vulgar. His songs are hilarious, I must say. He stays in character in interviews on Twitter. He goes deep. It reminded me of Dale Firebird the first time I heard it, like a lot. In fact, I even gave it the psh, this is a rip initially. So the quick question that is now long, did you ever think about expanding a character out to the point of becoming a new person? I know you have a ton of different characters, and I've even recorded as them in the past, but ever thought of going the Larry the Cable Guy or Wheeler Walker Jr. route with them? Much respect. Good seeing you in Salt Lake City, Utah, the last tour. That's funny. I actually had thought it'd be cool to do an album as Dale Firebird, but I mean, came up with that shit. I'm gonna put out a video this year. Every July 4th, I put out a Dale Firebird video. This will be the fucking 10th. This will be the 10th time I've done that this year. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna keep it going for the rest of my fucking life. Sometimes in life, you got to realize that you don't owe things. You know, if this is the 10th one, it might actually be a good time to make it the last one. Honestly, I don't know. I don't want to be fucking 50 years old and be like, July 4th is coming. What am I gonna do with Dale Firebird? And as a matter of fact, I'd rather be like, July 4th is coming. How about I take a day off like every other fucking American does? But I'm definitely doing it this year. And I have in the past thought it'd be cool to make an album as Dale Firebird. I actually have had the thought, absolutely had the thought, that Dale Firebird has way more chance to be huge than Wax does. You know, Wax is whatever Wax is. Obviously, I'm a rapper, but I do all these different things. I do fucking podcasts and comedy. I play characters like Dale Firebird. I do all this shit. Whereas Dale, like, you know, it's a lot easier to market and promote something that's very easy to understand. Dale Firebird is easy to understand. This dude Wheeler Walker Jr., it's easy to understand. Larry the Cable Guy is kind of like an example of why I would have thought that Dale Firebird would be, you know, it could be a bigger deal than, say, Wax, for example, or a bigger deal than whoever the fuck, I can't even remember his name, the comedian that became Larry the Cable Guy. Obviously, he was much more successful as Larry the Cable Guy than as whatever his real name was. But yeah, I saw the dude Wheeler Walker Jr. I follow Pornhub on Twitter. I actually had a conversation with the guy who runs Pornhub about him possibly producing a music video for me, and I was just like, you know what, that's not really the way I want to go. But that Wheeler Walker Jr. did a video on where he premiered it on Pornhub, and it was actually a pretty good fucking song. I'm not mad at the dude's music at all. I mean, I'm not mad at him at all. I think it's a great idea. And I thought when I saw that video, I was like, oh, this guy's got something that people want, you know. It's like a David Allan Coe, a modernized David Allan Coe that's more in the comedy realm, and I can definitely see, especially people in the heartland, enjoying that shit. But no, I don't really, I personally, I don't want to do, like, you know, it's show business, and I get that you kind of go with what works. But for my own self, like, I kind of like Wax, because Wax is like, I'm Wax. That's me. I'm a representation of myself, and I wouldn't want to have to, like, I got to imagine, like, I don't know, I can't speak for Larry the Cable Guy, but I got to imagine somebody that kind of develops an act that's somebody else, and they got to go up every night as this other person, can probably get a little old and a little taxing and a little depressing. As if life isn't already more depressing enough, you know. But that's it. I think that dude is dope, and I think it was a great idea, and I think that dude's gonna get nothing but bigger, you know. Thank you for the email, Earlobe Meat. This is Carlos from Bumfuck, North Carolina. Yo, what's up, Wax? Been a long-time listener. Some would even say an OG listener, but never emailed. Guess it's a good time now that I ordered the Piecast shirt. When the Living Foul album came out, I got the package thing too. Well, I fucking appreciate that, man. Thank you guys so much for the support on Patreon and buying all the shit. I've sent out all the packages. You know what? I sent out all the packages except for there's a couple people that ordered this morning that I haven't sent out. But if you haven't got your merch yet, it should be there today or tomorrow. If you're in another country, like if you're in Australia, I don't know how long that shit takes. It might take a little while longer. But you know, it's gonna be soon. Anyway. My name is Carlos, and I live, as they say here, bumfuck nowhere, North Carolina. Don't really have anything going for me at the moment. Just moved back into my parents' place and working with my dad in the shitty-ass drywall business. Your podcast and music have been helping me get through the day. I'm 23, so I'll have time to figure out what the fuck I want to do. Been listening to your stuff for like 7 years. That you and Dumbfounded did that. Ever since you and Dumbfounded did the I Need a Dollar remix. The new Gorillaz album came out recently, so I've been wondering what you think about artists like that who have been making music for generations and have changed their style almost every album they make. Thanks, man. Keep doing what you do. Can't wait for the 80s album and all the acoustic Mondays. Carlos from Bumfuck, North Carolina. Well, I appreciate that, Carlos. Thank you so much for listening. As far as the Gorillaz, I can't say that I love the Gorillaz, but I can't say that I've kept up with all their albums. I'm not really sure like what they sound like from album to album. But there are artists that are very into changing and evolving. Kanye would be a great example of that. Maybe not as a rapper exactly, but as a beat picker, Jay-Z would be involved in that. People that evolve with the times. Somebody like Redman could be argued he kind of does what he does. The band AC/DC is the best example of somebody who they do what they do. They're not all of a sudden going to put out some fucking new age disco fucking album with a string section. They do what they do. Now, in my opinion, both of these things are admirable. Both of these things have merit. Whether you do the same thing and you're really, really good at it, kind of like the AC/DC is like the motherfucking hero sushi guy. They've perfected this one thing that they do. They keep constantly perfecting it. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that it's a little different than the sushi guy because Hero's sushi roll now is probably better than it was in the 80s. Whereas with music, it kind of depends on the time and it depends on your youth. You could argue that being youthful is inherently what makes you make great music. Because most people wouldn't say that AC/DC's music now is better than it was in the 80s or even 70s. But then there's other people that evolve and change with the times. You know, Madonna was always evolving and changing. Artists like that are always, like Lady Gaga and fucking pop artists always have to do like a little something different and keep with the times. Even if that involves doing it might be involved like, oh, we do a retro song now, you know. But I don't really see any way of doing it better or worse, you know. I think you do whatever you do whatever the fuck you want, and if it's good music, it's good music. I think it might be maybe the best way to look at it is like don't judge an album based on the past albums. Judge it based on itself, you know, its own merit. It's kind of like the argument that I hear people have in the intellectual world. What's it called? Is it ad hominem? Where it matters what you are. You got to preface with what you say with what you are. In some cases, there's relevance to that. It matters if you're a woman, or it matters if you're gay, or like little things matter. But if you're having a scientific discussion, like if you're talking about global warming, it doesn't really matter that you're a woman. It doesn't really matter that you're Asian, It's more like scientific facts. That said, what I mean is it doesn't. If you get put out an album, I guess it depends how you're judging it. But if you put out an album, it doesn't mean like as an AC/DC album, this is blah blah blah. It's just an AC/DC album. Do you like it? Do you like the songs? Do you like the riffs? Do you like the solos? Do you like the solos and the riffs? Hey mom, dad, do you like the solos and the riffs? Okay, we got one more. We got one more email, and this. Oh fuck! Am I gonna have to play this? Hold on a second. All right, this email is from a guy named James N. Whether this is a real person, I have no idea. But it says, "Hey Wax, James N here. I'm a multi-currency man who works with Mike T. As you know, our boy's getting fired real soon in order to be replaced by an iPod Shuffle that'll do his job more efficiently. Before he leaves, I thought you'd like to see Lil Mikey working on his flow for your upcoming rap battle. He sent me this the day after 420. And if it doesn't make you scared to battle him, I don't know what will. Enjoy, James N. P.S. If you're ever in the UK, I can hook you up with foreign currency. And you might even see Mike begging outside the store." All right, well, this is the brief audio that included that this is the audio of that video.
People like, why the euro so low? I'm like, why you asking me, bro? They like, what you doing all day? And I'm like, laughing at Teresa, man.
Wow, man. I don't even know how to respond to that. I don't even know what to say about that, Mike T. First of all, I think you made up James N. I think you made up the character James N. I think you even went as far to create a fake Gmail account for James N. How would James N, air quotes, know to give himself like a Wax's Podcast type of name with just his last initial? How would he know that? How would he know so much about this? Why would there even be another person there if you're getting fired and you worked in there by yourself? I think you made up James N in order to send this video. In order to somehow scare me or something like that. Because let me tell you something, I'm not scared. That was the worst display of rapping I've ever heard in my life. And I think it's ironic that you sound very robotic with your delivery. Because I think you only sound like that because you're trying to convince your bosses that you're sort of robot-like too, just like the fucking guy who's going to replace you at your job. But the problem is the robot, the fucking R2-D2 looking being made out of fucking gigabytes and megahertz or whatever that's going to replace you, he came in and out-rapped you and actually beat you in a rap battle. What are we doing? They? You sound like R2. You sound like C3PO and Migos. C3 Migos. Sound like Migos and C3PO combined. And you know what? You wouldn't get signed. It's fucking terrible, Mike T. T stands for terrible. Anyway. Be safe out there.